Kherson region. The developments in Kherson are very important for Ukraine's plans to reach Crimea and liberate Crimea from Russian occupation. The success of Ukraine's operations in the Kherson region increases Ukraine's hopes and disturbs Russia at the same time. Russia never wants to lose control in this region, because the Russians know very well that Kherson is the road to Crimea. For this reason, they are cautious against Ukrainian attacks here. The Russians do not carry out fast and impulsive operations in Kherson as they did in Avdiivka. Ukraine expands its field of action a little more after every successful conflict in this region. For this reason, the Russians are countering Ukrainian attacks by deploying defense blocks one after the other. Do you think the Ukrainian army will be able to advance towards Crimea with the operations carried out in Kherson? The Ukrainian army has gained new positions with the operations it organized in Kherson. There is a tactic applied by the Ukrainian army in Kherson. Ukrainian forces immediately send reinforcements to the positions they have obtained as a result of the offensive operations they organized. The Ukrainian army, which has been applying this tactic for a long time, has been very successful. The aim of this tactic is to easily repel the Russian counterattack that may come to the positions they have won. By deploying a large number of troops to the positions it has won, the Ukrainian army creates a strong defense position against counterattacks that may come to the region. They also deploy long-range missile systems and artillery systems to these positions. For this reason, the positions of the Ukrainian army are not very far from each other. The aim of the Ukrainian army, which is advancing slowly and cautiously, is to advance with the least loss of soldiers and equipment in the region. With the tactic applied by the Ukrainian army, it occupies Russian positions and deploys its soldiers here. Then it dispatches long-range missiles and artillery systems to these positions. It is very difficult to transport this equipment to a place by traveling a very long distance. For this reason, the Ukrainian army's tactics are very useful. They can quickly place this equipment in the positions they have obtained, and from this point they can hit other Russian positions. Do you think the Ukrainian army, which is very cautious and confident in Kherson, will be able to open the gates of Crimea? The Ukrainian army, together with HIMARS missile systems, carried out offensive operations against Russian command centers, air defense systems and areas where Russian troops were concentrated. The Ukrainian army deployed additional military units to the eastern bank of the river. It deployed a large number of troops near Krynky. It is known that there are 400 Ukrainian military personnel around the Krynky area. Russian sources also confirmed the Ukrainian army's advance in the region. Russian sources announced that Ukrainian forces advanced to the southwest of Krynky and set up positions in the forested area close to this area. The Ukrainian army keeps its troops in the region and the equipment it has dispatched to the region ready at any time. These troops are fully prepared to defend a possible attack and to carry out a possible sudden counterattack operation. We mentioned that the Ukrainian positions in the region are close to each other. While this situation is very advantageous for Ukraine, another advantage has arisen for the Ukrainian army. We have mentioned that the weather in the region has been quite bad recently. We even mentioned that the weather conditions were unfavorable for transporting heavy equipment. We said that the Ukrainian army can monitor the movements of the Russians by conducting reconnaissance flights in the region. However, the Russian army also does this. The Russian Air Force also monitors the movements of the Ukrainian army in and around the river. However, the bad weather in the region makes this difficult. Although the Ukrainian army cannot monitor the movements of the Russians are on the defensive in the region. With the bad weather conditions, the visibility in the region has decreased considerably. This was a great advantage for the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army utilized the limited visibility and moved its troops and equipment in the region more easily. Taking advantage of the bad weather conditions, the Ukrainian army managed to transfer its troops and equipment to the east bank of the river. Russian analysts also stated that the Ukrainian army deployed in the forested area and dispatched a large number of military personnel to the region. Analysts also reported that Ukrainian troops in the region are ready for a possible counterattack. The Ukrainian army was deployed in the region with bad weather conditions, but with the weather getting better, the Russian army continued their air strikes around the region. Although the Ukrainian army has achieved positive results in the region, Russian air operations continue intensively. Unmanned aerial vehicles are also conducting reconnaissance operations in the region. However, Russian air strikes are failing. While the Ukrainian army crosses the river and strengthens the positions in the region, It continues to hit Russian targets. The Ukrainian army is carrying out offensive operations with HIMARS missile systems against Russian command centers, Russian air defense systems, and areas where Russian military personnel are concentrated. Ukrainian forces shared images of their operations with HIMARS missile systems in and around the Kherson region. The barracks and several structures where Russian soldiers were located were destroyed by the Ukrainian army. In addition, a warehouse full of equipment was destroyed by the Ukrainian army. With the successful operations of the Ukrainian army, the balance of the Russian army in the region was completely disrupted. The Ukrainian army, which transferred its troops and equipment to the other side of the river, continues to advance in the region, gradually wearing down the deployed Russian defense blocks. Ukrainian forces detected a Russian command and control vehicle near Novomayachka and destroyed the vehicle with the operation it carried out. Russian commanders were also neutralized. Ukrainian forces also struck a building in Russian-occupied Uvylenie during a law enforcement meeting. Russian sources reported that 4 occupation police officers were killed and 18 wounded in the Ukrainian HIMARS attack. In our daily reports, we provide you with information about the destroyed equipment on a daily basis. The Ukrainian army has recently been conducting offensive operations targeting Russian air defense systems in order to reduce Russia's defense capabilities. The Ukrainian army reported that it destroyed 2 Russian air defense systems the other day. And since the beginning of the war, 602 Russian air defense systems have been destroyed by Ukraine's long-range missile attacks and unmanned aerial vehicles. After the Ukrainian army received HIMARS missile systems, its power and effectiveness in the war increased considerably. Russian leader Vladimir Putin had started the occupation by stating that he would enter Kyiv within a week. However, the Ukrainian army, together with the powerful ammunition it received from other countries and the will of the Ukrainian army, gave the Russians hell in Ukraine. The blocks formed by the Ukrainian army in and around Krynky strengthened the Ukrainian presence in the region and continue to make the Kremlin uneasy. The Ukrainian army also carried out another important operation. Ukrainian forces destroyed a Buk M2 near Novoselivsk in Kherson with a HIMARS attack. A few days ago, Ukrainian forces had detected and destroyed an even better version of the system, the Buk M3 air defense rocket launcher. The Ukrainian army's operations against Russian air defense systems have significantly reduced the Russian resistance in the region. However, the Russian army continues to lose power. In particular, the number of military personnel lost by the Russians has reached record levels. The Russian army lost 1,280 soldiers the past day. The Ukrainian army continues to give the Russians hell on the front line. The Russians have lost more than 330,000 soldiers since the war began. Ukraine continues to conduct offensive and defensive operations in Kherson, north and south of Avdiivka. The Ukrainian army is inflicting heavy losses on the Russians with its active defense strategy. Do you think the Ukrainian army will be able to completely break the resistance of the Russian defense blocks in Kherson and open the road to Crimea? What do you think about the Russians losing power in Kherson?